So less physical weight and more aggressive arbor ratios is another benefit. For any line weight, Lightspeed is going to have a larger arbor than velocity. Going from Lightspeed to Waterworks, what's the difference in benefit? Well, in the Waterworks line, we step up to this intermediate drag size in the 8 weights and above, not the 10 weights. But the primary difference is, again, in physical weight. We go from the world's second lightest reel to the world's lightest reel. For example, this is an 8-weight reel. It's 3.9 ounces. This is a 5/6 weight. It's 3.2 ounces. Very, very lightweight reels. Second benefit or difference is that, yet again, a more aggressive arbor ratio in any given line weight. Waterworks versus Lightspeed. Let me just clarify, we're talking about a Waterworks reel, and previously we were talking about Lamson reels. A little background on that. When we came into fly fishing as C1 Design Group, we didn't own Lamson, so we created an identity called Waterworks, a brand called Waterworks, and that's why this reel, which is our first reel that we designed and introduced, is called the Waterworks. We call it the ULA, Ultra Large Arbor, to separate it from what was commonly thought of and still is commonly thought of as a large arbor, but we would describe as a mid-arbor reel. So Waterworks ULA, and that's the background on that. We had the opportunity to purchase the trademark Lamson from Sage in 1998, and we introduced the lower price point reels, starting with Lightspeed and on down, under the Lamson brand, because simply more people knew that name, trusted that name, were aware of that name, and so we brought our designs under the Lamson name beginning in 1998 and working down the price points. Again, our objective in doing that, in bringing this core drag technology down in price points, was to bring as many benefits as we could afford to bring down to more affordable price points. We'll come back and talk about that in a minute. This is Vanquish. More expensive than Waterworks. It's our new top-of-the-line reel. It's a different animal than Waterworks. This is all about weight savings, maximum arbor performance. This is a blue water reel. More rigid and beefy structure. And there's some interesting things going on with this reel. So let me spend a minute talking about Vanquish. First of all, we step up the drag size to a new large size that we developed specifically for Vanquish. This is a cutaway to show you that. It generates 11 pounds of torque, again on the 10 and the 12. We've put 2 clutches into this system, so there's a backup clutch, and the benefit of that is 2 things. By having 2 clutches, you half the load on any single clutch. You reduce the load on each clutch, and by doing that, you minimize the chance of one clutch failing. Secondly, even though you've minimized the chance of that happening, if it were to happen, if one clutch were to fail, the other clutch would take over immediately. The fisherman would never know that a clutch failed. So you've got a built-in backup clutch. And again, with reduced risk of that happening in the first place. So I know of no other reel out there that has that particular benefit. So Vanquish runs the new large drag system. And then structurally, there's some interesting things happening on this reel. The foot is a solid piece. And so we've eliminated the risk of the foot separating from the frame under load. The foot is fastened in a much more secure way in from the side with fasteners that run the length of that part. And again, it's a solid single foot. You'll also notice that it's flush to the case. It doesn't rise above the case like a standard foot orientation does. And the benefit of that is that it moves the mass of the reel closer to the axis of the rod. It moves the reel closer to the rod. For any given mass, the farther away you move that mass from the rod, the more influence that mass has in a pendulum or pronating direction, the more negative consequence the mass has on the rod, said another way. So you're minimizing the negative consequence of the mass of the reel by moving it in closer to the rod. The stripping arm is stainless steel, and it's a separate part fastened in from the side. Stainless steel is much harder than aluminum, and so it's less susceptible to any structural damage if the reel were to fall. It's also less prone to line grooving over time, so the benefit of the stripping arm. If there was any problem with the stripping arm, it could simply be replaced. The entire case and drag system would not need to be replaced, and that's a unique feature to Vanquish. The reel itself, the entire spool and case, go through the same proprietary process for finishing, mechanical and chemical and type 3 hard anodize. And so it's just as tough as what I demonstrated here, but you see it has a brighter finish, a shinier finish, which comes from bright dipping, an additional process that gives it sort of a cosmetic sex appeal and elegance. So our objective has been to bring these benefits that we set out to achieve: minimal physical weight, optimum arbor ratios, mechanical simplicity, superior materials, and superior drag, to all price points. Now, the other way to evaluate the product line, one way is in this direction. The other way is in this direction. And by that, I mean, if you as a customer, or if you're dealing with a customer who's committed to spend no more than $150 or $300, what do they get from us versus what other reel manufacturers offer? So let's talk about that for a minute. Starting with Konik, what do you get at a little bit over $100 versus what you might find as alternatives at that same price point? Well, what you get is a $400 drag system. The sophistication and performance and materials being used in this drag system at just a little bit over $100. I'm not sure there's any other manufacturer that can say that about their reel at that price point, and that's the magic of Konik. Largely the same is true with Guru. Add in solid bar stock aluminum. So at this price point, just a little above mid 100s, what we offer is this same $400 drag system in a fully machined bar stock aluminum reel, and I don't believe there's any other competitor that could say those things.